Alright, I'm ready.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Framework, the role of values for the policy that best reduces oppression, carried 14 debate discussion interface to ideal 3 and ideals of representation, one to extract away from certain features. This captains any real discussion of the concrete nature of oppression, not suggest that complex social problems are totalized in one set of views to be repressed by marks of the like. Prefer additionally, one, there's no intent foresight distinction for states. They must consider consequences innocuous and making policy decisions is precisely the goal, which second must be undertaken when a state tries to committee tries to formulate rules for allocation of drugs not out of the death and motivation immediately foreseen not intended. They have no special relationships and pursuits. There is no reason to shake the responsibility of states. Second, vision, improve personal identity, reduction, psychological continuity doesn't exist. Often summarized here. To reverb or transplant the ship can be psychologically continuous to those hemispheres or transplanted each to a different head. The two recipients will be psychologically continuous to false you and left and right, but that cannot be you and left or one you and right or one left you and right cannot be two a contradiction. That proves the usual person already being seen a distribution among them is a relevant means to maximize good experiences. The only experience that are only valuable other people are representing the person's a separate entity. Contention, personal finance disclosure at the state levels in shambles that allows rampant corruption. Even states with disclosure still use ancient systems that kill accessibility. Updating the system is key topic 16. The controversy over tax reforms for Governor Missouri Democratic candidate called out to be a negotiation to ground that parties would release its tax returns. Missouri's financial disclosure forms are not available online, making it possible for public seeing without traveling to Jefferson City. Financial disclosure forms only require vague listing of sources of income. The personal financial records of candidates are hidden behind arcane disclosure rules. A disparate and quick rules make it more difficult to track conflict of interest. Greater disclosure would help this while dog corners and underserved for power money or playing roles. Some states will only allow access to someone's search of in person. States insist on verifying names. Other records are handwritten. State disclosure system splits federal information freedom as well. Poverty, 16 Maryland. Ethics law requires any person wants to see a financial disclosure show up in Apple, show ID and register their home address is home like to see files of Freedom of Information Act. Of course, and get them installed on align because ethical laws from Freedom of Information laws. And 2 states still hold out with no disclosure at all. Hernandez, 18, Idaho, Michigan are the last remaining holdouts that don't require lawmakers to disclose anything about their personal finances. And disclosure systems using aggregates fail to create transparency. Specificity is key. Runner 14, they only have to report the values of income as assets in the broad range of $1 to $2. Highest outside $100,000 range. That reveals very little. That be found from the 1950s. There's been a little bit of inflation since then, and the impact is ongoing and structural conflicts of interest. Rule law Hernandez 18. Conflict of interest analyzed disclosure reports from 6,933 lawmakers, also the 47 states of program numerous examples of lawmakers who have introduced legislation directly and indirectly help their business in Michigan. We currently have no idea what income lawmakers have. Having these disclosures give the public the power to decide lack of effective disclosure rules for officials in nearly all facets of state government, opening the door to potential conflicts of interest, but also eventual public corruption of legislators doing business with the state government's disclosure key to holding politicians accountable. Plan the 50 states and relevant sub-federal actors in the United States ought to require candidates for public office to substantially disclose personal financial information. Here's a list of clarifications. Georgia 11, candidate for public office financial disclosure statement shall be filed no later than the 15th day following the date of qualifying as a candidate. And it solves a online disclosure is key to effectiveness. Spreader 14, the public rarely sees information. If there's a bill influencing a particular company, want to see how many lawmakers have stock in the company. The only way to do is to have accurate, quick access to information about interest. I don't think it would be a problem for the PDC to make them all available online. B-point public information law in Hazelton having disclosure source of information relates to how to become aware of interest supporting candidates. Identify when candidates are relying on other conflicts of interest. C-point deterrence along in Hazelton 17 disclosure can deter corruption. Journalists, rivals, activists, and others can identify supporters. One may discourage candidates from correct activity. Donation scandal involves public humiliation. D-point enforcement law in Hazelton 17 disclosure is vital for enforcing donation laws. Impossible to check non-compliance without disclosure. Rise here for setting each decision, money spending, trends, competition, and reform. Theory under review. One error theory paradigm act gets it. Otherwise, it can be infinitely abusive. It's strong debater since the winner doesn't have enough time to prove abuse and still adequately cover substance. Nor be accident. It can dumb on the shelf for 6 minutes to make the 2 are impossible. This is extent. Spec is good. 8-point is after. 8-point is vagueness. Whole round is super vague. Nobody knows what that entails. And if we don't specify democracy, it's impossible to have precise debate about what the affirmative defends. B-point is after. Anything else allows infinite tiny dissets and picks that make it that forces every debate to come down to either picks bad theory or something that the app is never going to be correct on after or that which is necessary for. So the app isn't pigeonholed into generic or isn't pigeonholed into generic arguments. C-point is semantics don't make sense. The app is just a subset of the resolution, which is sufficient, which is a pragmatic question. There is no reason why the app has to justify the entirety of the resolution. Insofar as proving substance of it is still pragmatically better. Hey, underview. Debating political solutions is an iterative process that uses the Academy's decided movement building that creates a bulwark against Trump's bastions and Taylor 17 the entire period of uncertainty. Trump policy may apply substantially harder as administration will attack governments, continue assaults on black and brown communities, the clear war on Muslims, even rival whites, perhaps inspired with uncertainty stands where Trump will fall through this uncertainty based on a calculation or ability to build moves toward agenda. This possibility exists only we recognize the Academy's side of policy control or not. These students political writing certainly that's all trouble and it's not politics. There's need to connect position, struggle, transformation with students desperately. They can grab the future is not already written. Be part of using the eruption of mass struggle and occupying BLM. Trump made more than moral average requires a strategy movement standard of create space for debate. Politics and ideas matter, not just speech and mutual community. We should be clear about differences covered through debate. The struggles not easily attain attitude. People political establishment want to perpetuate voices of black liberation, want to bury legacy, history, and politics, and movement. Black struggles independent, destabilized, so the black movement become the platform of the liberation struggle. The challenge to use line ability to transcend to argument, debate, and struggle past that divide resistance. The call for solidarity on the basis of papering over different experiences. Our fates are connected, and everyone is injured, and all the other world is truly possible only if we struggle for it. And even if liberal institutions are historically problematic, they can be reformed. Wholesale rejection, emphasis on values as opposed to outcomes of right, abandoning and improved results in backsliding that entrenched structural violence and causes genocide year in 16. We can question the basic legitimacy, say, even as we huddle under a liberal regime, making errors of values, we exit political interest, even when liberal studies come, they're saying of institutionally backed guarantees for social, cultural, ethnic minorities, it's key to state-sponsored marginalization, and violence liberals and try to cover liberal institutionally directing the enforcement of legal rules differ sharply across population, limitation of seemingly liberal ideas, like perverted liberal consequences, structural violence described the state affairs average, over structural violence, couched in language, and creating a wholesale rejection of liberals and liberal institutions are imperfect, yet the very forward against antagonistic policy, we disagree over the content of policy and rejecting neoliberal values without abandoning the basic institutions of democratic state radical democratic party that justifies more perfect institutions live up to the promise and not the history of liberals and rescue it from its perversions, continuing to discount breaches, limits when institutional nations are called into question, evident in the proclamation people like managed directed not towards reformative dismantling. This is way fashion, even the tax and institutional bedrock of liberal democracy serves as dislocation by its counter movement that can take out the repressive reactionary forms will also be a broad coalition of people united by basic commitment to community basic rights and institutions that try and uphold them. And liberalism is the best ethical and practical platform for emancipatory change. Mills 17 liberals will not be contemptuously rejecting movement is more likely to be successful with those principles Americans endorse simplicity, continue of improvement, just rather than result in consensual logic where should receive liberalism rather than rejecting and universalism, affirming the moral unity of the human. Good day.
Okay, is everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you explain how the app solves for the role of the ballot?
So the plan would reduce governmental corruption.
Okay.
Is bad.
So like, can you say like, so what exactly does it solve? Is a solvency?
Like, how does it solve?
Yeah.
Like, I think there are two main warrants. First is that if voters know the sort of interests and financials of the people that are running for public office, they'll be more likely to, for example, oppose bills that the candidate has a direct interest in and vote based upon that information, which would improve and prevent sort of corrupt officials. The point is that it would deter officials from engaging in corruption because they would know that they would have to disclose that information that could potentially tie them to that corruption, so they wouldn't engage in that. Yeah.
Okay, so you said that if the public knows about like that there's some potential corruption within a public office that they'll reject that candidate. Do you have any proof that they will reject that candidate?
What do you mean?
Like Trump's election, doesn't it show that people don't actually care about whether or not their candidate is like involved in like crimes?
So I think obviously Trump does, or obviously not in every single case, but on the whole, especially on things like the local level, people are going to be more likely to vote for candidates that they think aren't corrupt as opposed to candidates that are corrupt. Obviously,
Trump still won, so how exactly are people going to be more likely?
So, as I said, Trump is an anomaly.
Really? Like what about the rise of the alt-right in Europe? And like, especially in Poland with the Law and Justice Party?
So Trump is an anomaly in being able to sort of throw out all these like sort of crazy statements and outright like racist and sexist behaviors and still be able to get elected. We would say that on more local level and in other elections, voters would care about things like corruption, and they would still be able to check that, and it would still deter public officials from engaging in that behavior.
Okay, so like suppose it happens on the local level, like why does that mean that it won't happen on the federal level? If it might happen on the local level, how does that make the plan have federal solvency?
So the plan doesn't claim to have federal solvency.
So like where does it solve?
We don't solve all of corruption, but we still create a significant dent in it, which is valuable.
Okay, so can you restate the plan text?
The 50 states and relevant sub-federal actors of the United States ought to require candidates for public office to substantially disclose personal financial information.
Okay, so can you explain what a sub-federal actor is?
That would just be Washington, D.C.
Okay, so you said that online disclosure is key to effectiveness. Can you explain why online disclosure specifically is key?
Because if they have to go to like Jefferson City to be able to view the information, that is sort of out of the way and creates a much bigger burden to be able to find the information.
Okay, I'll start my prep. Oh, yeah, so hold on, let me share the speech thing.
How much do you have left?
57 seconds. Alright, I think I have 30 minutes. Okay, it's sent. Can I use your laptop stand?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you guys get it?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Wait, hold on one sec though.
Great. You were kind of getting cut off at the head. Decapitated. That's good. That's good.
That'll be fine. Okay, I'm ready.
Alright, are you ready? Okay. Rights are tied to sovereign to sovereign by defining life and only in terms of what can be defended by the state. This turns to citizens subject to bare life. Heinz 5. Noticeable contrast to the sociology of globalization, which is search for the state's sovereignty is gradually disappearing in the benefit of world flows, compromising good individuals, capital information, the primary characteristics of the state's capacity to define, and occasionally erase the boundary between normality and emergency, thus the capacity to transport society into a camera, large population with citizens to bare life. The current Western takes to the blurred line between the normal and exceptional between sport, and by increasingly taking an interest in not all only as citizens but as embodied beings, is an interest illustrated by suggesting that intertwined with the forces of humanity, would they have been evoked the dystopian perspective of this legal theory, explained by a government is considered interesting by many. The bare life of the individual is such twofold more gets protected even from sacred status beyond the intimate grasp of political power. The bare life of physical individuals, steps of moral agency and social intercourse with the intention of particular judicial mood of attention. A government mistrusts the human's right to physical integrity in a way that is reminiscent of Michael Foucault, who felt the discursive isolation of sexuality and almost construction as a single object of attention was far more significant than the fluctuating history of its liberation or repression. The separation between humanitarianism and politics that we are experiencing today is the extreme phase of separation of the rights of man for the rights of the citizen. The humanitarian organizations can only grasp life in the figure of bare and sacred life, and therefore divide themselves, maintain a secret solidarity with the very powers they ought to fight. The humanitarian separation from politics cannot fail to reproduce the isolation of sacred life at the basis of sovereignty. They can, which is a pure place of exception, is the political paradigm it cannot master. Impact. A. The end of biopolitics is a state which legal order is indistinguishable from bare life. Dean 04. Biopolitics covers life stripped naked the demonic character of modern states, lies into the possibility that the thresholds that maintain bare life as a state of oppression are breaking down the paradigm of modern politics, and new noblesse is not the liberal governing of freedom but the concentration camp. The camp is the material from the stabilization of the state of exception. The camp is established by laws. The space of exception is subject to no order, is held only direct police command. The space of order disorder in which bare life enters into zone in distinction with legal order. We become used to a style of criticism in which liberal notions of the individual system have been revealed to be constituted through a series of exclusions. This desire for inclusion may have the effect of hastening the point at which the sovereign exception enters in zone of indistinction with the rule of society, would then only become truly demonic because bare life is constituted. The sovereign exception would begin to enter a zone of indistinction with moral and political life, and with the fundamental presuppositions of the political community. The sovereign violence that constitutes the exception of bare life is today entering the very core of modern politics and systems of justice. B. No value to life. Biopower ensures the devaluation of life. Agam 98. Sovereignty has its immediate counterpart in the determination of a threshold beyond which life has any juridical value and can therefore be killed without the commission of the homicide. The new juridical category of life devoid of value, which corresponds exactly to the bare life of Homer soccer, and can easily be extended beyond the limits imagined by binding if it has every valorization and politicization is not necessarily implies a new distinction concerning the threshold beyond which life ceases to exist to be politically relevant, which becomes only sacred life and can such be eliminated without punishment. And new political horizons of state national sovereignty moves aside every human and every citizen bare life is no longer confined to a particular place or a definite category. It now dwells in the political biological body of every living being. Alternative. Our alternative to return to the priority of political contestation to class, limiting with class relations, can eliminate the ideological machinery which is legitimized and extend class domination and racist practice. Materialist critique of the historical relationship between the means of reproduction in the process of racialization in the United States to mark the starting point of the transformation of exploitative class and market relations, San Juan 8. Without political power in the hands of democratic popular masses with the leadership of working class animal machinery that legitimizes class domination with attendant racist practices cannot be changed, which requires a revolutionary process that mobilizes a broad constituency to dissolve his class structures, and any change to the ideas, belief, and norm would produce changes to the economic, political, and social institutions, which would promote wide-ranging changes in social relations with a historical materials frame with starting point and end point for analysis. The relations between any structure and any socio-historical totality cannot be anything else but the production and reproduction of a material existence. Allen has demonstrated that the present genealogy configuration of racism in the United States is first manifested when European colonial settlers based on private property, land, and resources substitute another social element based on a collective tribal tenor of land, denying the latter any social identity. We shift our attention to emergence of white race and its system of racial oppression and the defeat of black Bacon's rebellion, the establishment of a system of lifetime hereditary bond suitorship that exists with the social distinction between the poor members of the oppressed group and member, however, prior to the oppressed who is a hallmark of racial oppression. White supremacy was constructed at a particular historical conjuncture demanded by class, where the result is a flexible system that can adjust its racial dynamics to divide the subordinates, because market relations, high unequal power relations, sustained ideological critique, and transformative actions are imperative. This outweighs and turns the case, specifically the K, because they get no offense from the K because they're working like inside of like the system, but that's just undercutting any of their solvency. So then onto the theory cell. A interpretation of one theory interpret the articulated potential value implication must be advanced after the violation is said to occur except in cases where the justified theory frame. This is the acting making RBI or trying to theory competing in terms of non-arguments that contain substantive issues. They make one theoretical say that tames out some substantive argument. Violation, they read multitude of like spikes in the AC. C. Reasons to refer. 1. Strategy Q. Either A, I have to all my time explain why I need each interpretation of the AC, or B, I have to answer each argument because the violation is originally clear, so I can engage on the sustained level of the flow. I have to over-allocate, and since any theorizing is no risk issue for them, they can take out entire position, so it's a blatant overcompensation for structural students. Since any one of the arguments is no risk issue, and they can leverage multiple spikes to exclude all of my offense. This uses every time my time to where I can engage in his position on a level where I can develop high-quality arguments, so I should be able to respond to the arguments in the next piece since they are complete. They have no impact. Other arguments don't matter if I can't engage in arguments in the first place because my arguments will be left developed simply as a function of a lack of time. B. D. Voters. 1. The only lasting benefit from Jade's education is the reason why many people join the event, so assuring it isn't destroyed is key. 2. Schools are funded by educational programs, so it's only logical that the event stays educational. 3. Education is inherently important to debate because it gives debaters skills that be utilized outside of ranks. Straight and well explained. Education is the more important thing any debater will receive from the active in regards to around knowledge gained from researching an argument of differentials will give individuals a great deal of information. And debate also educated students about how to properly construct arguments, how to speak in public, how to analyze arguments, and quickly think of substantial responses, all of which are tools that can be applied in any aspect of the outside of debate. E. Framework issues. 1. Drop the debater because it only sends a meaningful message that debaters want to win and avoid losing, so dropping the arg is insufficient. 2. Dropping the arg incentivizes abuse because debaters will run the abusive strategy debate theory and then drop the arg, then creating a positive time trade-off for them and screwing over their opponent. So then, if you look onto the affirmative side of the flow, so on the contention, the plan is turned by the case because insofar as they're working inside of the system, as like the link explains, that by rights, like using this idea that there are some like rights that like are illegal that come from the state and that should be guaranteed by the state is just solidifying the impact of biopolitics. Here you can cross-apply Dean 04 and Agabin 98 that they're basically leading to no value to life. And then onto the K, my K outweighs and turns. It outweighs on magnitude because it's literally talking about how the state as a whole is going to affect a bunch of people. Also, if you look at the plan, the K shows that the plan has no solvency because it's just continuing like the state's problems. And so then onto the spikes, like the theory stuff, you can just cross-apply my shell. They should be able to run more than one spike, especially without disclosing all of the spikes that they're reading. So you just have to just hope you hear them. So.
Ready?
Yeah.
Status of the alternatives.
Oh, it's unconditional.
Cool. What is a spike? Oh wait, so what's the violation for theory?
Basically, you run like a ton of spikes in your AC.
Like what?
Like you say, I'll get to it. Yeah, so you say that like the whole res is too vague, and then you expand on that when you say that like you use 1AR theory paradigm. Like these are all just like invitations for someone to run theory.
The critique, can the state ever take actions that are ethical?
Maybe in the short term, but in the long run, they're just solidifying their own power. So
was desegregation of the armed forces bad?
that action, no, probably not. Like in the short term, it did a good thing, but at the same time, it just solidified the idea that the state has power over society and can thus like force people to engage in a mindset shift.
Wait, so how did desegregation of the armed forces solidify the idea that the state has power over people?
Right, because like, you know, it's just solidifying the fact that the state has the right to control people. Like it's the Heinz 5 argument.
So the state,
like talking about rights.
So the state should never do any. So should the state have? Should Abraham Lincoln have abolished slavery?
I mean, I guess the K takes the point of like that action might be good, but overall, in the long run, no.
What did abolishing slavery do in the long run? That was bad.
I mean, it just solidifies the power of the state. Like that's what the Heinz 5 card says. That like it just solidifies the power that the state has over people. And slavery was an extension of the state.
Okay.
So like it's just another way that the state is having this control. Like slavery was an institutionalized thing.
Yeah. So why is getting rid of certain forms of institutional control solidify the state's power?
Yeah, so basically it's the idea that lots of our institutional controls are linkages from the state, and so the state is basically just reorienting itself to make like the subjects or the citizens of the state feel like, oh, it might be better, but in the long run, they're still just controlling
the
what we do.
alternative. Is the plan possible in the world? The alternative?
No.
Okay.
Their mindsets are like adults completely.
The alternative says, what's a materialist analysis?
Okay, so it's basically like a capitalist analysis.
What is that?
So like using it from the perspective of class.
Okay, what does it mean to, so what do we look at from the perspective of class?
Yeah, so basically once we understand how like class interacts with the state idea of state domination, only then can we understand how to best deconstruct state power.
Okay.
Here's your laptop stand back.
Sorry, prep.
Hey, I'm great. How are you? I'll get out of your hair.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Lifesaver.
So, if we shouldn't engage in the state, should we just like form autonomous communities outside the state, or what?
I mean, the alt like doesn't really defend like after what happened. Like the alt isn't talking about what happens after we get rid of the state.
Wait,
the
how do you
alt
get
is-
rid of the state?
Like, okay, so the point of the alternative is that the first step to lowering state control and state power is to reevaluate the state. So that's what the alternative is defending. It's not defending like 60 million years in the future, this is what it might look like. Maybe not 60 million, I don't know.
So the alternative is just like, we should think that the state is bad, and we should think that it should be gone.
No, not really. It's like the process of like rethinking the state is like a first step. Like it's not just thinking about it as in like thinking about it and doing nothing. It's about thinking about it and from that stepping off point, engaging in action.
What
Like
sort of
putting
action?
your money where your mouth
Okay,
is.
what sort of action?
So like any action, the alt doesn't specify.
So you can take any action after we think about the state.
No, you have to take an action that like would help deconstruct the state.
Like what?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, I have a minute or two left. Theory, case, okay.
Are you gonna run another shell?
No.
Okay.
You said 102?
I'll send it now. You don't take sending as prep, right?
Did you send it?
Send right now.
Okay, cool. I like your email.
Oh, thank you.
Case, theory, critique?
Theory case.
Theory.
Unless you want the case first.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, don't tell them what you want.
Don't remain unintelligible.
Oh dear. Oh no.
Alright.
Everyone ready?
One second. So theory, then K, then case?
Yeah. Or theory, case, then case.
Okay.
Okay, everyone good?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, none of the spikes in the app were offensive. They are paradigm issues, and reasons why reasons why specification is a good thing, which were just defensive arguments and paradigm issues. Their interpret is very specific that it's only offensive theory, i.e. drop debate or issues, which are none of the spikes in the app, which also with the text and spirit of their interpretation, because it doesn't exclude any negative practices or say they should lose for any argument. They're just preemptive. And even if you don't think I mean counter all defense violation with the added point that the spikes aren't offensive, that was explained above. The net of 1 hour time, so you need spikes in the affirmative because the 1 hour super short, and you need the ability to quickly extend arguments and cross apply them to different negative flows. So I do get spread out of debate. Now, they also, if you don't know exactly what this interpretation says in the 1 and 2, you should allow them to do our clarification because the 1 error is obviously suited. They were super vague and sketch about it. Now the case. Oh, also the disclosure thing doesn't matter. It's not part of their inter and it was extemps. So and they can just ask me for an NCF which checks the case. The app is a good idea. Disclosing personal finance reforms deters governmental corruption because they know that they know that the electorate would see them, so they wouldn't engage in corrupt behaviors in the first place, which significantly reduces material violence. All of their arguments on the case are just re-articulations of the critique, so I'll just address them there. The K. First, framework, way the case, anything else is self-serving, arbitrary, and leads to one EC, which was a 1 error restart. Every fairness matters because basic competitive activity and link shorts of GPs means we don't get valuable discussion. The epistemology app is inherently tied to the consequences, so it makes no sense to separate them. Permutation of the app and the alternative in all of their instances. There are no unique link to the affirmative. There are tons of instances of the state exercising sovereign power in the status quo that the alternative is not able to resolve fast enough, so the app's one action doesn't push it over the brink, so doing it in all their instances can overcome their suitable link. Permutation, do both. There's no specific link to the affirmative. They have to show why the plan specifically and cause of this sort of bare life that they criticize, but their criticism of rights doesn't apply to the affirmative because it's not like the state has the power to grant inalienable rights. It's simply passing a specific law that forces people running for office to disclose their financial information. So it doesn't link to any of their critique arguments. Link current reforms within the state expose the flaws of the state and the ways in which it uses sovereign power and ways to be corrupt, like the affirmative, which shows the way in which government officials are corrupt and exercise sovereign power in bad ways, which shows that doing reforms is better able to expose the flaws in the state and motivate people to engage in the alternative, which is net benefit to the permutation. And nothing about the app uniquely reifies state power, which was the no link argument above. Their alternative is terrible because it rejects any attempt at legal solutions, abolishing slavery, voting, expansion of voting rights, desegregation of the armed forces. They would all say that all those things are bad, even though they made lives materially better for tons of people because they somehow led to some long-term entrenchment of the solidification of the state. The permutation solves because if we can recognize that the state is bad and should not exist, but still recognize that in the interim it's necessary to create small reforms like the affirmative that address short-term needs. The alternative throws all to the wayside and has no mechanism for being able to result in practice that can actually get rid of the state. This is proven in prep time when they can't even explain what actions would be taken after we think about it. Thinking about it does nothing. The alternative is super vague, which means that you should inherently err affirmative because it's not able to resolve any of their impacts. It makes them a moving target that the affirmative can't engage. In addition, their alternative is about class relations, which doesn't make sense. It justifies the contingency of material oppression. It's a double turn with all their government arguments. Using the state is necessary for capitalist revolution because only the state has the institutional constitutional reach to solve logical problems like capitalism, like warming, lack of health, access to healthcare, etc. And laws transformative and positive, their theory of a simplified runtime. A laws represent a unipoint or surface between laws of point of departure rather than solve the complicated social processing as the origin of power relation rather than effects that run on legal norms distribute powers which allow subjects to introduce changes. He cannot see that biopower can be exercised in ways radically different from the Nazi regime, and rejection of sovereignty degenerates into totalitarianism. It is hopelessly utopian code. 06 there also state of exception only offers abstract things. It seems to embrace the utopians, provides little guidance for action just needed by law with totalitarianism. Boundless discussion will alternative field of laws in this analysis. Development falls into a trap of hoping politics can be liberated from law, and there's no impact to biopower. Rabbino 06 minorities all power ultimately rests on the ability of one to take another, nor is it useful to use a single diagram to analyze every instance biopower or natural system in complex mix of the politics of life and death and path and death ways depend upon a host of other historical, moral, political, and technical conditions. Last is crossed by the Taylor references and seek the political, as they said, to the alternative Trump strategy relies on the assumption that the left is not going to engage in political debates, which means charting political futures is necessary to create a bulwark against Trump's fascism.
Alright, I'll take the rest of my prep.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be TKF.
I'm not ready.
Okay. I don't think I'll be reading anything new. Actually, I am gonna read a new card. I'll send it.
Okay.
You can just do it, and then if I need the card, I'll just get it after.
Oh, okay. Do you want the card?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Wait 1 second. Alright. Judge,
Okay,
you
where are
ready?
we starting?
T, then K, then AC.
Got it. Alright.
Okay, cool. You can extend the interpretation. This says that all but one theory, interpret objectively or potential ballot implications must be advanced after the violation is said to occur except in cases where they justify theory frameworks. So basically what this is saying is that they can have like one theory interpretation that has implications for the ballot or has implications for neg offense, and then like that's it. They read a ton of other theories and they don't disclose them, which means it's another constraint for the app. Like it's another constraint for the neg. Like my opponent said that this doesn't have to do with the interpretation, but it does have to do with how you weigh the theory shell, because I disclosed my theories, he didn't disclose any of them. Also, cross-X doesn't check insofar as I have to like check like 6 like spikes. So then onto the violation. He makes a we meet argument, but he doesn't we meet. His argument is that there's no offensive theory shells, but his theory spikes are like offensive. He's saying that the app gets 1 AR theory paradigm, which is an implication for neg strat, which means that it's inherently offensive. Like that's That's just how it works. Okay, so then you can extend the reasons to prefer, so you can extend the strategy skew that I've spent all my time explaining why I need each interpretation in the AC, or I have to answer each argument. So my opponent says that the 1AR is super short, so you should go for whatever the 1AR says, but just because we get the same amount of time to speak, he has to speak maybe in a shorter time period, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't make these blippy arguments across the flow. It's another advantage to the 1AR that the NC has to deal with. So then you can send the voters that education is important. My opponent makes no counter theory shell, so you can extend these arguments. So basically education is the most important thing, and insofar as my theory, it's you can't vote for the AF on theory. It's either you vote for the neg or you don't vote on theory at all. So then you can extend the drop the debater because only a loss sends a meaningful message, and you can specifically extend the second issue, which is that dropping the debater incentivizes abuse because debaters will run the abusive strategy. That's what he's doing. He's baiting theory by running 6 spikes in the AC. So then onto the K, you can extend the Heinz 5 link that right stock ties the population to the sovereign. My opponent's argument is that there's you just perm so his argument against the entire T is that you perm because it's not unique, but the perm and the AF and the K are methodologically inconsistent with one another. You can't do the perm because doing the perm would undermine either K solvency or AF solvency. If you do the perm, you're upholding the AF, but you're undermining the K